How should you go about the business of forming beliefs? Beliefs about mundane, even trivial matters, beliefs about morality, beliefs about the effectiveness of wearing masks, beliefs about fundamental scientific truths. As an epistemologist, I'm interested in questions regarding what makes beliefs successful, good, or otherwise positively evaluable. Let's start with successful believing. Successful believing, I take it, is knowing. And knowledge is immensely important. Developing vaccines and curbing pandemics requires vast amounts of scientific knowledge. The integrity of a democratic system requires its citizens to share a body of knowledge, and knowledge has an intrinsic kind of value, being part of what makes our lives good and worth living. A lot of the time, knowing is a piece of cake. If I want to know what the weather is like in Helsinki, I can just glance out of the window. I wonder what the Higgs boson is. Hey Siri, what's the Higgs boson?
One sec. The Higgs boson is an elementary particle in the standard model of particle physics produced by the quantum.
There we go. In fact, knowing a wide range of facts is easier than it's ever been in human history. Yet sometimes, acquiring knowledge can become astoundingly difficult. The French philosopher René Descartes, writing in the 17th century, imagines an evil demon set on deceiving us about the world, even our own bodies. But knowing, distinguishing fact from fiction, can become difficult even without anything quite as fantastical as an evil supernatural being. Consider, for instance, the problem of fake news and the real power and control had by social media. At least much of so-called fake news is maliciously and deliberately created misinformation spread in industrial-scale operations through tech platforms. Artificial intelligence has evolved enough that bots can produce coherent enough false narratives using good language, and at a rate much faster than human journalists can write well-researched news articles stating actual facts. Minds are being manipulated on a massive scale. Like Descartes' evil demon, this manipulation cunningly exploits knowledge of how our minds work, of our cognitive architecture and tendencies. Our predicament is one of limited cognitive resources. The world is messy and complex, our lives a series of decisions that must be made with limited information. We've adapted to deal with our limits. For instance, we must trust others. A very large part of your knowledge is based on trusting what you've been told. But trust can be manipulated. Similarly, we must deploy various heuristics, and we must close many of our inquiries in a timely manner, settling our minds on a topic even while knowing there is more information out there. To close our inquiries, we look for signs of truth and knowledge. For instance, of things fitting together to form a coherent, explanatory whole. Indeed, good scientific theories show how things fit together in a way that allows us to elegantly explain and predict a wide range of phenomena. But conspiracy theories, for instance, are often engineered in a way that hits cognitive sweet spots. They unify a whole range of facts, offering simple explanations, often in terms of claimed malevolent forces. These narratives often harness the especially powerful human emotions of anger and rage. But they don't just exploit the darker sides of human nature. We derive joy from knowing and understanding. We feel empowered when being able to explain, predict, and systematize a messy world. Inquiring is stressful, and closure on a topic feels good, even when we are under a mere illusion of knowledge. So we face informational environments that can make knowing very difficult. How then should we evaluate the beliefs of those in such environments? Can these beliefs, for instance, be rational or reasonable? It matters how we answer these questions. For instance, our attitudes to a fellow citizen will be completely different depending on whether we view them as positively foolish, as no more rational than an adult who still believes in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, or, on the other extreme, whether we view them as merely unlucky. Just like the victim of Descartes' evil demon, their cognitive architectures and otherwise perfectly good tendencies have been turned against them. These questions are also connected with what we see as the solution. For instance, if we think agents taken in by fake news are almost always deeply and blatantly irrational, we will be inclined to think that the problem lies with these individuals. Perhaps not much can be done if people are simply foolish and gullible, lacking in discernment. By contrast, if at least in an important class of cases, much of the vice lies in the structures individuals are embedded in, then our attention should be on fixing these structures. Much of my work is about how to draw some of these lines, lines between foolishness, blamelessness, reasonableness, and knowledge. My view of what makes beliefs reasonable stands in contrast with a way of thinking that dominates much of epistemology as done in the Anglo-American tradition. Here's a popular thought. A belief is reasonable when it fits with some class of mental states that you are in. The mental states might be experiences or how things seem to you to be. Some experiences inherently, in virtue of their qualitative character, in virtue of what it's like to have them, rationalize belief. Good rational believing is a matter of a kind of mental housekeeping, of matching belief and experience. Or, on a very different variant of such views, the mental states in question are states of knowledge. Reasonableness is a matter of proportioning your beliefs to what is known. I've raised numerous problems for these types of views, but my worry here is that they don't provide us with adequate, nuanced enough evaluative resources. Being reasonable becomes too easy if it's just a matter of believing in accordance with how things seem. It shouldn't, for instance, seem to me that the earth is flat. Similarly, taking into account what I know isn't always enough. I can be unreasonable in virtue of failing to know something I should know. A fact might be staring me in the face. At the same time, if being reasonable is a matter of proportioning beliefs to what is known, it is sometimes too difficult. The victim of Descartes' demon, for instance, holds massively false beliefs, knowing hardly anything about their surrounding world. But proper weight should be given to the fact that the unfortunate subject can be forming beliefs in ways that are at least very similar to ones that, in good environments, produce knowledge. I'm also skeptical of the thought that some mental states, in virtue of their nature and content, intrinsically rationalize belief, irrespective of one's surroundings or the kind of world one inhabits. As I see things, one's environment cannot thus be bracketed when thinking about reasonable or good ways of believing. I prefer to think of reasonable belief in terms of feasible, knowledge-conducive habits or tendencies. One can, on my view, know while failing to manifest good tendencies. There is unreasonable knowing. Conversely, one can manifest good tendencies while failing to know. What then do I want to say about people embedded in bad informational environments? Well, verdicts about particular cases will depend on the details, but here is something I think is true, at least in an important class of cases. We can recognize that subjects in bad environments are manifesting the very same, or at least very similar tendencies or habits of belief formation that serve us well when operating in good environments. For instance, they trust, though their trust is being manipulated. They are drawn to simple and powerful theories, albeit ones that are a bit too simple and powerful. They are not blatantly foolish. In many cases, their ways of forming beliefs do yield knowledge. A belief-forming tendency can be good in some environments and bad in others, just as a tendency to seek sweet and fatty foods works in a hunter-gatherer context, but not so well in a modern grocery store. At the same time, at least in some cases, it would be feasible to do better, to learn to discriminate between differences that, in better environments, may be irrelevant. Though new foods engineered to hit our gustatory sweet spots trigger tendencies that have served us well, it is feasible for us to learn to distinguish between more natural combinations of sweet and fatty tastes and the engineered ones. We can become suspicious when something tastes too good. Similarly, we can learn to distinguish between good theories and theories that are too good to be true, theories that subsume the complex world under a black and white narrative, harnessing some of our darker emotions. By paying attention to both a subject's tendencies of managing her beliefs and the informational environment she's embedded in, my view takes a more structural stance on epistemology. There is only so far we can get by focusing on individuals and good ways of managing our beliefs. the threat of an evil deceiver is always there. Certain informational structures foster ignorance and irrationality. Not much progress will be made by pointing fingers at individuals. We cannot leave the work of epistemic design to market forces.